Every day's a holiday on Orange and Blue today.
That's fair. Every day is a holiday for somebody, especially if you use the English term to be on holiday, a way of describing vacation. Then yeah, every day, some days having a holiday.
I'm on a holiday.
If you took a holiday, took some time to celebrate, just one day out of life, it would be so nice.
It would be. You know, my ringtone is Hooligans Holiday.
I did not know that.
Yes, and forever will be, because I'm that guy. It's Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason, Monday. Showtime, Mace. We were out there at practice. Not a lot to report. We mainly see like stretching. There was no open locker room today, unfortunately, because I was kind of looking forward to that. It's one of the best things that we get to do.
I know. Yeah.
But we did
the Monday open
Sean
locker
Payton.
room. Yeah, the Monday open locker room is usually good.
Yeah, it's really good. But we did hear from Sean Payton. We did hear from Josh Reynolds. We're going to hear from him now, and we're going to try to figure out this whole week, okay, how do you best go about beating Seattle?
Especially when they've completely revamped things schematically under Mike McDonald coming in as the new head coach there. The film study is really going to be interesting for the Broncos because it's something that Sean Payton touched on today, that they're basically going to have to go through. They're going to have to go through a lot of film. It's not going to be simply go back and even just watch Seahawks preseason or Seahawks last season. You're going to be looking at Baltimore Ravens film from last year if you're studying the Seahawks defense. And if you're studying the Seahawks offense, Ryan Grubb, their offensive coordinator, coming over from the University of Washington, so just basically going, across across the isthmus that is Seattle, basically. And he's, you're going to be looking at what he did with Michael Penix Jr., Rome Odunze, and everybody else that was there. So it's unknown. Like this is the thing about facing a team that's got so much new schematically. They're going to throw some surprises at you. Mike Shanahan didn't really like facing a new head coach in the first game of the season because there was no film. 2005 lost to Nick Saban in his first game as Dolphins head coach. 2006 lost to Scott Linehan in his first game as Rams head coach. And Mike Shanahan was usually great in openers, but not so great against new head coaches. This is a challenge for Sean Payton.
Yeah, it's a challenge for this Broncos defense. And on the Broncos offensive side, good thing they have Bo Nix, because, Mace, we know the first month of the season is basically like the new preseason where everyone kind of figures it out. But there's no book on Bo Nix. There's not much of a book unless you look at Baltimore or University of Washington for Seattle side. But you don't have a pro book on Bo Nix. And the preseason's one thing, but the preseason is also very basic. I, for one, am looking very forward to the unveiling of what Sean Payton will do with Bo Nix.
I am as well. And I do wonder what's going to be different. Are there going to be some things that we haven't seen in the preseason, the kind of stuff that maybe is in practice and is going on right now when we can't see practice? Last week was the first couple of practices that happened without the media being able to watch. So now is the point where you can kind of lock things down and really work on things in quiet.
Yeah, I think the game plan should include a lot of running, a lot of Javonte, a dash of Jalil, maybe some Estime, probably 30 carries total is what I'm projecting for this team. And then when they go to the air, probably about 25 times, I would say, Mason, I'm guessing that Courtland Sutton is a valuable asset for Bo Nix, a very valuable asset.
I would also say when you go to the air, it's 25 passing attempts, but I think there's also 4 or 5 scrambles for Bo Nix as well.
Sure. Yep.
And maybe we're talking, and so you may look at that, the run pass ratio. if you're including the Bo Nix runs in that. And I would not be surprised if you see a team that is running more than it passes. And that's also a healthy sign, because if they're passing more than they're running, it's probably an indication that they've fallen behind and they're trying to catch up. If you look in the first 3 or 4 games and see more runs than passes, it means the games have been played with relative parity. They've been close, where the Broncos have been winning and they've been able to play their game. And right now, that game is going to involve running. Sean Payton talked about it way back in April when I asked him what can help a young quarterback, and he said it's running game and the defense. And when he talked about Bo Nix today, he came back to those same concepts. And here's what Sean Payton had to say.
Anytime there's a different player under center, what do they do well? Look, it's difficult to play that position, and I've said this before. It's certainly tough if you're having trouble defensively or if you're having trouble running the football. More is asked of that position. So we get a young player like Bo Nix. There's a certain skill sets he has, strengths and weaknesses. Hopefully we build on the strengths and then really minimize the things maybe that a young player might face, opening up the start of the season.
They're not going to ask him to do too much right away, Mason. And we've heard that from Broncos fans. Like, is Sean Payton, he's going to throw for 400 yards? No, it might be only 200 yards, but you know what? If they get a win, that's what matters.
If he's throwing for 400 yards, I'm not sure the Broncos are winning that game.
That's bad.
I mean, like last year, didn't Russell Wilson hit 300 yards when they lost 70-20 in Miami?
Probably.
For example, yes. Yeah, 400 yards, it means either you've fallen behind and you've gone pass, and maybe you've got some Blake Bortles garbage time touchdown drives type there. Remember those back when Bortles could be counted on for big fantasy numbers, but not necessarily big numbers in reality, because he would stack up the touchdowns when the Jaguars were behind 3 or 4 scores. Master of that. Hopefully that's not what we're talking about with the Broncos here. What I do hope we're talking about, if you do see 400 yards, is they found a mismatch, and Bo Nix had advanced enough and had earned enough trust to exploit that mismatch. That's much less likely, but it's possible. It's possible. I don't necessarily think it's going to be possible in this game, although I think we'll see some blitz packages, and if Bo can read them properly, there's going to be open receivers, but that's a big if, because we're going to see a lot of disguised blitzes. We're going to see him show a gap blitz and then drop those guys and then rush from the edge. We're going to see all sorts of different stuff on Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to see Bo react to that. And Tom's saying Court has to make a point this season. We can't say what we saw at practice, Mace, but I will say this. I feel like Courtland Sutton has an energy around him, and I go back to the first day he showed up, and it wasn't good. And then you look at him now, watching him today, you see like the regular season level is there.
He found it. I'd say he found the regular season level a couple of weeks ago, though.
Sure.
I think that week leading up to the joint practice against the Packers, I think that was a week where he ascended to another level. And that's where the timing with Bo Nix really started to kind of click. And you started seeing plays on the regular. And for Courtland Sutton, success is going to look a lot different, because this is not going to be 9-ball, run around, break off your route while Russell Wilson's, darting around back there and then heaves it up with a high arc pass. It's going to look a lot more like a Sean Payton type of offense. Courtland Sutton, and I think it's to his credit, we're seeing a lot of different things from him compared to past years. And I think this actually, it's stuff he can do. He has the ability to be effective on those slant routes and those drag routes. He can do that. Mm-hmm. It's just he largely hasn't been asked to do that in this offense. Now he will. I think you're going to find he's a pretty effective player, although you may be looking at a season where, like last year, he had double-digit touchdowns. Maybe this year he's pushing for 1,000 yards, but he's got, say, 5 to 7 touchdowns.
Which is more relevant in your eyes? To me, it's the 1,000 yards, even though that's only like 60 yards a game. But it's that consistency that Sutton can bring. The 10 touchdowns come and go. They do.
Yes.
And like, okay, so he'll have 7 touchdowns this year instead of 10. Okay, big deal.
Mm-hmm.
If he has those 1,000 yards and he's that steady target on those drags and those over routes, then that's what the Broncos need him to be.
And every so often, I want to see him pop for 100 yards.
Sure.
And that's another thing that we have not seen very much of from Courtland Sutton in the last few years. In fact, as we go back through his career here, you want to know when his last 100-yard game was?
Oh, boy. 2020.
No, he's had 3 since then.
Okay.
He had 1 in Jacksonville, week 2, 2021. 1 against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, week 5 of 2021. The most recent 100-yard game was the infamous countdown game, week 2, 2022. The fans counting down the play clock because the Broncos, Nathaniel Hackett, Russell Wilson, the pre-snap process was so slow. And so for Courtland Sutton, that's the first 100-yard game in 16, 19, 23, 24, 40, 29 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. I think that'll end this season. Maybe not pretty quickly, but I think it'll come to an end. And he'll have a couple of games like that.
Let's talk about the fast start. Not just for Sutton, but for this Broncos team. We talk about it as a season, but everyone brings up the 12th man. And yes, they are incredibly loud there.
Yes.
You've been there multiple times. I will say this. You want to make them quiet? Come out and score. Come out and
jump on them.
Get out to a fast start. Take the air out of the ball. You want to make that crowd quiet? Get an early lead. We'll see if Sean Payton's game planning for that.
Whoa. That, man, that's the dream scenario, is to shut that crowd up and take them out.
Yeah.
If you get up 14-0, and then it's not only that you take them out of the game, it's that you can then run the ball more. You can be more deliberate in your approach.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is a game where it's a little bit of pass to set up the run. Maybe you get a couple of rhythm and timing passes early. Think of the drive that they had. The way the drive was looking for Jarrett Stidham before the penalties, the Tim Patrick penalty against Indianapolis, but that drive looked very promising, right? Just boom, boom, boom. You're moving it downfield. It didn't start off well for Bo Nix when he came in because he had a couple of incompletions. Then he got rolling. But you have a drive like that, or the touchdown drive that Bo Nix led against Green Bay, where you do get off schedule once with a penalty, and then you're back, and then you got back on because he took off and scrambled for 10 yards, and then he had the pass to Courtland Sutton down the right side. Now, it's not going to be as easy against Seattle's starters as it was against Green Bay's backups. And in particular, it's not going to be as easy against a defense that will be anything but vanilla in this game. So this is one of those moments where he's got to identify what Seattle's throwing at him, but also very much going to sound like Herb Brooks in Miracle, play your game. That's what you want. You got to play your game.
Yep. Play your game and make the outcome the way that you want it with your play. Yeah. And that means short rhythm and set up a few deep shots. If we're saying 25 passing attempts, I would say maybe 3 that travel past 20 yards or 15 yards. Yeah. Like, I think this could be a lot of dink and dunk, lull you to sleep, and then strike when they're not expecting it. Not a lot of deep shots in this one.
Not a lot. 2 or 3 maybe. Who are you doing those deep shots to? Are you getting Marvin Mims Jr. involved in that way?
Is it about the only way he's going to get involved? That in the end around, right?
Although maybe it's Devon Vele.
There is another.
Because boy, oh boy, I mean, we had Josh Reynolds on the conference call today, and we couldn't see the look on his face, but you could hear the excitement when he talked about Devon Vele, and I asked him about what kind of progress Vele had made to this point.
Yeah, Vele, man, he's a great player. Great player. He's real savvy. I mean, y'all seen the plays he's made in camp and OTAs, man. He's a playmaker, big body. I really like his savviness. He can manipulate DBs in a way to just get open, man. And I think that's going to be big for him this year.
He can manipulate DBs. That's something. And some of those DBs he's manipulating are the guys that he's facing in practice who actually know him, his moves, and he's reading them. So what's that going to look like when he's facing defensive backs who don't know what kind of clubs that Devon Vele has in his drawer? You had Sean Payton last week saying Devon Vele was ready to contribute right away. Or no, not Sean Payton, George Payton, my bad. But
I have that clip, by the way. I don't know if you played it the other day, but it's in here if you want me to play it.
Let's play that. George Payton's talking about Devon Vele.
And then, Vele's Vele's mature, as we know, plays like a pro, feel like he can play right, in a game in Seattle if he has to. And so like him as well.
Yeah. All roads are leading toward Devon Vele getting on the field. By the way, new number for Devon Vele. He's now number 17.
Mm-hmm.
There are a bunch of number changes.
Yes. Nick Benito, Little Jordan Humphrey, right?
Little Jordan's now number 84. Mm-hmm. Nick Benito goes from 42 to 15. That was an interesting one. An interesting change for Nick Benito.
That's an odd choice for Benito, that's for sure. Because you have 5 Baron Browning, and now you have 0 Jonathan Cooper, and now you have 15 Nick Benito. None of those are pass rushing numbers.
He was number 11 in college.
Mm-hmm.
Can't have that because of Josh Reynolds, the aforementioned Josh Reynolds we've already heard from on this show.
Okay, yeah, well, there you go. I believe that Vele, I'm not saying Anquan Bolden type of debut or even Marcus Colston type of debut, but if there's one thing that people aren't expecting, I think it would be Devon Vele on a big catch.
Yes.
Sutton's going to do his thing. Reynolds will be consistent, move the chains. But I think if Vele has a play or two, that's his announcement.
Marcus Colston started his first game as a 7th round pick rookie back in 2006. And I'm looking at it here. 4 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown as the Saints beat the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
He had a touchdown his second game. He had a touchdown in his 4th game. 3 touchdowns in 4 games. And he built up 49 yards week 1, 58 week 2, 97 week 3, and then 132 yards in week 4.
Wow.
Kept getting better and arrived pretty quickly. Had a 1,000-yard season despite missing a couple of games and most of a third because he was injured, which tells you how quickly Marcus Colston arrived.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty good.
Peyton's done it before. Could he do it again with Vele? I'm not predicting that, but it's going to be fun to watch because he is that unknown. And I know Josh said it, and Josh is going to know way more than I do. Vele still doesn't know he doesn't understand leverage yet. So he's manipulating DBs without fully, again, like we always say, the guy can get better. And there's so much more there when Vele figures out leverage.
Yeah. How soon do you think he can figure that out?
I give him a year.
Okay.
Maybe his runway is a little bit shorter because of his age, but usually takes guys some time.
It does, but at the same time, they're going to give him the snaps to get better. That is the one thing, with the Tim Patrick move here. Okay. Is Devon Vele with the playing time in the second half of the season better than Tim Patrick would have been? That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
And actually, there could be some belief in that building that Devon Vele is better right now than Tim Patrick.
Yeah, and we appreciate Tim, but we also know that burst was gone. Vele still has that burst because he's a younger man.
Yeah. It's hard to come back after missing 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, how often has it been done? Like it's nearly impossible to do, especially when it's 2 separate injuries. That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
2 separate injuries affecting his ability to move downfield. I mean, we're all rooting for Tim Patrick. I'd say with some of the receivers that the Lions brought in on their practice squad, in addition to Tim Patrick, that he's got some competition as he tries to ramp up to actually getting some playing time there.
Mm-hmm. KW says he thinks they're going to blitz him a ton and play underneath 8 and 9 in the box. Wow.
Yep.
If they go single high safety and dare Bo will tear him up.
Yeah. That
Don't
ball's
blitz
going to
this
be
kid.
out. That ball's going to be out fast, and there's going to be a lot of yardage after the catch if they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is, are they doing that straight up, or are they, they're crowding the box and then dropping everybody back because this is another thing. And this is why you've got to get the deep game and have the deep shots as part of it, because if everything is short, is underneath short to intermediate, then what's going to happen is you're going to see teams account for that. So that's why having the threat of a deep shot is going to be absolutely essential. And that's something it may be worth having some incompletions and maybe a drive that stalls or two just to show that card, to show that you're willing to do it. And if you can get to work, so much the better. And that's where, even though he's kind of a forgotten man and it's been a rough summer for him, Marvin Mims Jr., man, that's your entree to actually really helping out this offense.
Well, we'll get into it as the week goes on, Mace, but I could see him being an X factor, at least a score on special teams or a deep pat, even if it's a deep PI. Like, send him deep and somebody Reek Woolen interferes with him. You'll be shocked to know that's what he does.
It's funny you talk about, go back to Devon Vele manipulating defenders. What did he do in that preseason debut? He drew 2 pass interference penalties.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the equation as well. You almost want to count those penalty yards as yardage for the receiver. I mean, it's part of what really got Courtland Sutton going early in his career as well. Was the ability to draw some deep DPIs.
Right. Brian says Mace loves Fubo.
No, I don't. He's being sarcastic. Like I was venting last night over the whole DirecTV ESPN thing, and people are like, "Well, get Fubo." Fubo doesn't get TBS or TNT. Don't tell me like Fubo is a solution. It's not.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like there's a lot. There's so much Fubo. I feel like I was the victim of a Fubo astroturfing campaign.
Ha. You got spammed by Fubo bots.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you don't blitz Bo Nix, and we got to hear Josh Reynolds on Bo Nix, because what he said is something you and I have observed, and I think it's very relevant when we talk about blitzing. And you mentioned maximizing yards after the catch. How do you do that? Josh Reynolds talking about Bo Nix will tell you.
I mean, Bo Nix compared to kind of just, everybody I've played with, man, he's got a beautiful ball, man. He can place it wherever he wants to. He can put it on the line. He can have touch with it. He's got an amazing arm, and I'm excited to see kind of how he progresses and continues to take charge of this offense.
Take charge. I like it.
Take charge of the offense. Mike McGlinchey talking last week about Bo Nix being authentically himself. Javonte Williams saying, hey, he doesn't really need the wristband. I am anxious to see what it looks like for Bo Nix when it actually counts here. Like, everything has been positive so far.
Mm-hmm.
our questions have been about Bo Nix in practice and what he's showing in the locker room. And now the growth is going to happen in the games. But there are going to be some broken eggs en route to making this omelet.
Sure.
And you don't want to accumulate too many broken eggs early. Unfortunately, you mentioned these first few games, it's like preseason in terms of teams learning their way. The Broncos started 0-3 last year. I mean, you could basically say they failed that extended preseason. Now, a couple of close losses. They lose the first one. Will Lutz misses a field goal and extra point. They lose the second one because I'd say primarily because Kareem Jackson got thrown out and Delarian Turner-Yell wasn't ready. And remember, Justin Simmons got injured, was playing the second half of that game injured. So you had safety who'd never played at the pro level before in the regular season, and yet a star safety was hurt, and then
couldn't stop the run.
They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't come forward. They couldn't. They were getting shredded on the back end as well. Remember that pass from Sam Howell to Terry McLaurin there in the end zone in the third quarter. Like the dam burst pretty readily.
Right.
So that's why. I mean, I'd like to look at the end of the month and see 2-2. I hope so for this team. 0-3 is gonna. It's gonna. At that point, you have to recalibrate the expectations. At 0-3,
yes. Right.
A lot of people do. I think maybe me not. Maybe not so much me because that's. I said 7-10 back in May, and I'm sticking with it. A successful season this year is winning some games at the margins and finding out a firm answer on Bo Nix. That's a successful season. And you find out if you find out Bo Nix is the quarterback of the future, a potential franchise quarterback, the record's kind of immaterial, in my opinion. It won't be to the Broncos, but I think in terms of big picture development, it sort of is. This is really about getting ready for 2025. What success you have this year can be a bonus, but we've seen examples in sports of how a team can come in a year early and shock everybody, right? So don't close your mind to that sort of thing, but I think have relatively reasonable expectations, but a fast start can raise those a bit. A fast start can give you confidence that when the schedule gets tougher, you're capable of accomplishing more and thus finishing ahead of more along the lines of your prediction or even better than that, than where I've got them.
Handy dandy card, Mace.
I know you've always got it there. I'm impressed. You've always got the card there.
I have them at 1-2 after 3. You have them at 0-3.
Yeah.
So both of us predicted like a rougher start.
I don't like going to Seattle for the first game when you don't have a lot of film on this defense. On this defense, with Mike McDonald guiding it. I don't like going to Tampa Bay in week 3, and Pittsburgh in week 2 brings all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I mean they could be 2-1, and the one would be Tampa.
Potentially,
Tampa will get you now. As my voice hits a different octave,
that's a talented team in terms of skill talent, and we saw what teams with quality at multiple skill position spots and a lot of speed could do. So that's a matchup that matchup concerns me for the Broncos defense in that game. Even though Todd Bowles can dial up some things, that one concerns me that you could see a big number on the board against the Broncos, especially Baker Mayfield. If the Broncos blitz too much, Baker Mayfield, you can get it out quickly. We know he has that ability. It could get rough.
Well, we shall see. Do you want to talk about the Sutton would-be trade before we're out of here today? I know the chat room was asking about that.
Yeah, it came up last week when Brandon Ayuk signed his contract extension with the 49ers according to a report from Diana Versini of The Athletic, the 49ers offered the Broncos a third-round pick for Courtland Sutton, and if they had done that and that deal had happened, they would have traded Brandon Ayuk to the Steelers. The whole thing was they wanted a receiver they could plug in if they were going to trade Ayuk. The Broncos said no, according to the report, and thus the deal didn't happen. That was something Sean Payton did talk about today.
I'm going to say probably in the last 2-3 months, there have been multiple teams call about Courtland. He's a good football player. It's a little bit of a stretch relative to the specifics. I read the same thing you read, and I would say we didn't get that nearly as far down the road as he may have reported. So it's insignificant. For me to comment on every call that comes into Georgia myself would be ludicrous.
It's amazing how many calls they've got about Courtland Sutton in the last about year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder why, everybody. Because I know Sutton gets a lot. Well, he's not our number one. Well, here he is. And there's teams around the league. If they did indeed turn down a third rounder, that tells you what they think about him.
And it tells you how they want to help Bo Nix out. Now, again, on the surface, you look at letting go of Tim Patrick, taking a proven receiver out of there. Does that help Bo Nix? Maybe not in the short term, but maybe if you look at the long term and the fact that if he can develop the timing with Devon Vele, where can that go? And you do very much lean on Courtland Sutton and Josh Reynolds to say, okay, those are our experienced components here. Those are the guys who know what they're doing. Those are the two who are going to help Bo Nix. Running game, also going to help Bo Nix. You get that going. You want Javonte Williams needs to be averaging 4.5 yards a carry. Not sub 4 like he did basically every game down the stretch last year.
I'll take 4, Mace. You said 4.5. That's gravy. I'll just take 4. Just get 4.
Okay.
4. Just get to 4.
Yeah. Hey, you get 4 yards, 3 plays in a row. It's 12 yards. You move the chains.
First down.
There you
Broncos.
go.
How about as a team? If we say 30 rushes in this game, and some of those will be Bo runs, Jalil's going to get, 7, 8, 9, 10 carries. If he can average 6 and Javonte is at 4, a quarterback's usually a little bit better. But okay, as a team, if you could approach 5, I think that'd be, 30 carries, 5 yards a carry. You're winning that game.
150 yards.
You're winning that
on
game.
The ground. You're probably winning. Yes.
Yeah.
I could come up with the stat. It wouldn't take me long to research it to tell you what the Broncos record is. They can get to 150. How many games they've won on the ground. And again, rushing game and defense. These are the things that are going to help Bo Nix out, make things easier for him as he figures it out. You don't want to have to rely on Bo Nix. You want to be able to lean on others right now. Eventually, the goal is Bo Nix can carry you, but that's not where he is at this point.
Right. That's where he'll get. That's where you want him to be. But right now, it's his first game. There will be jitters. There will be mistakes.
Yep.
Nobody lose their mind. He's learning.
It'll be okay.
He's learning, yes. When he makes a mistake, I'll be excited because I'm like, now he's not going to do that again.
Well, what if we kept hearing in the last few weeks he doesn't make the same mistake twice? That's the thing. But the thing is, he has to make the mistake. That's part of what you have to expect this year. There are going to be rookie mistakes. There's going to be a moment where he throws at a top-level corner and you're like, whiskey, tango, foxtrot. It's going to happen. Everyone be ready for that.
Yes. Yeah.
CJ Stroud had some bad games last year too, folks. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
CJ Stroud had some off-target passes. Only worse was Bryce Young in terms of catchable passes. So
what they both have in common? They were rookies. Rookies starting right away. So
rookie's going to struggle, but that's okay.
Again, just enjoy the ride. Think about 2025. What you accomplished this year, it's gravy. You got to play the long game here. It's okay. The Broncos have a direction now. It's not let's go plug in Joe Flacco, right? Or let's hope a second-round quarterback hits, or let's hope a seventh-round quarterback somehow hits. No, they have a upper half of the first-round quarterback starting in his first game. It's the one thing they haven't tried in this post-Peyton Manning era. Now we're about to find out. We're fixing to find out, as Gary Kubiak would say. Got to work that in there.
as you work this
Or
into
we're nixing to find out. Yep.
That's right. That's right. We're gonna get
Someone
it done.
says growing pains. Yeah, show
Yes.
me that smile.
Denver Dave for growing pains. That's right. Oh boy. Yeah. There you go. It's a wrap for today. Open locker room on Wednesday. Thank God.
Yep. Time to start getting in there and asking some questions. Tag teaming. Let's go. Let's do it.
Rustle around. Yep. Interested to see what this team looks like and what they say. Interested in growing our YouTube channel. We're inching up towards 14,000 subs. So we appreciate you. If you watch this show, you know what to do. But Mace, if they need a reminder, what's their reminder?
Like,
Comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell.
so that you
Never miss vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT is a BFD. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned. And would you please